Dave.
And today we're back this week to discuss minute 105 of Lost World. Bit of an apologies to our YouTube viewers. I noticed a couple of weeks ago, and I was meant to bring up that for some reason, I know why, because we're using some of the soundtracks from the film, particularly the intro and the ending sort of bits of music there, that copyright infringement was coming up on YouTube. But it seems, I've just quickly checked now, and it all seems to be going back to Universal and John Williams, which was fair enough. But the originally it wasn't to them; it was to some, I think it was some Spanish or some South American artist was actually claiming copyright on the finale that we play at the end of each episode.
Huh, really?
And because that's not even the full track, I sort of cut the start of it off, and it's butchered a little bit. But the fact that they were sort of claiming copyright on that piece of music and calling it something else was just weird and fascinating. I've since gone back through now all the way back to minute 1 here for the infringements, and now it's all coming back to Universal now with it's the finale and Jurassic Park theme, which was produced by John Williams. It's one of the last scores on the track, last tracks on the score. So at least that's going to the right person now, because I was trying to email YouTube to say, hey, no, this music isn't from this artist, it's from John Williams, and if you're going to put ads in our videos and send money to the content creator, then you should be sending it to John Williams or Universal, whoever owns the rights for the Lost World score, and not to this to this guy or band in Central America that is claiming we're using their music. But no, that all looks like it's back in order now. So if you are seeing ads during the YouTube videos or the episodes on YouTube, then that's because we've breached infringement. But we're not doing Patreon. We're not making any money off these episodes. So I'm pretty sure United States and all the main countries still get the YouTube videos, even if there's a copyright infringement. I think it's some countries in South Africa and all that sort of block the videos. But that's been happening, and again, sorry if you have been watching on YouTube and the videos haven't been coming through because of the infringement, but that looks like it's all sorted now. So
Mommy's very angry.
On to some happier news, David. My breakout Tyrannosaur has arrived. Finally.
That is awesome.
After a year of waiting in the wind for it to get here, it's here. I'm much happier with the paint on it than we've seen with a lot of production photos, than in-hand photos. It is a lot darker. It doesn't really photograph well.
Really?
But yeah, the spots are on its lower jaw and that, but they're not as blatant, and the skin tone's not as light as what I've seen in some other photos. So whether that's just because it come out of the California warehouse and not the China one.
Yeah, it's probably.
So
Probably a contributor.
Yeah. So I quickly unpacked. I'm very surprised by the weight. Being polystone, obviously, just how heavy she is, and even the fence posts, like they feel like they're die-cast or steel. Just
Really?
very, very heavy, and you've got the wires as well. So once I took her all out of the box, and sort of even the base as well, the base she stands on is very heavy. It's just the whole lot feels a lot heavier than what it does in the box with the foam. It's like the foam makes it a little bit lighter, but I've got nowhere to put her. I'm still working on my man cave, so she's gone back into storage, and will come out and get displayed once I've got that done.
Gymnastics? I scrubbed out, Dad. I got cut from the team. Thanks for knowing.
On to new acquisitions for this week, Dave. Have you found anything new or purchased anything new?
Not yet. I was actually going to wait until my next paycheck came and also wait for some better deals. Grab the the Lost World version of the big 6-inch scale 5-point of articulation. What is that? The Velociraptors and the Owen, the little 12-inch figures, and so I found they had the Lost World one, the Raptor, and this Gimalock at Kohl's at work, and so I'm gonna grab that one in a while. Hopefully they'll still have a couple left. They've been selling very quickly at work, which is good, I suppose.
Yeah, well, it's good to see them selling, but then is it just they haven't got that much stock and it's not
I
getting replenished
I don't
as
know
fast?
because
Um,
things seem to go pretty fast, but then they get restocked pretty fast, and so the the two little standees they have at work are always kind of overflowing in a bit, in a way. Because Kohl's, though we do have a back room, we usually keep most of our stock out on the floor if we can.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, my Target's got a currently, or even another store similar to Walmart here, has got all the Jurassic World stuff, or Fallen Kingdom figures on sale at the moment. And as we said last week, I was going to pick up the Jeep again, but I decided to get the Claire and Gyrosphere pack that has sort of the half damaged Gyrosphere moulding on the glass. And I got a photo I'll post up onto the page, but it might be a little bit big to scale, but it's still the original Hasbro Indominus Rex can still get its jaws around it, which is good. And if you sort of put the little indents where the shattered glass mouldings is in the right sections of the tooth, you can actually jaw will actually hold onto the gyrosphere, and you can hold it above the ground with the Indominus Rex. So that's great. It is a lot bigger than it should be. I think to scale with that Indominus, the Lego gyrospheres that come out with that probably scale the best with those original figures. But just having a toy of the gyrosphere now, yes, it comes with Claire. I'm not overly fond of the Claire character at all, but it's just good. You can put your two little figures in there and roll it around the floor, and it acts much like the gyrosphere would. That was a official official toy I purchased. I also got a cheap accordion bus, which is, I'd like to say more so closer to what the original Challenger or RV was in the novel. Just real streamlined.
Yeah, that's true.
Not as big and bulky as what they were in the Lost World in the film. I think they're described as being sleek like subway cars, but I've sort of got this accordion bus, and some of the windows are in the perfect spot to mimic the RV. The tyres and axles can come off quite easily, so I can get and modify all that. And just before the record, I had a bit of a play around and got the screwdriver out and unbolted the tow hitch and that, and flipped the rear of the bus upside down so I could do all the cliff top stuff. But it does. When my son was playing with on the way home, he said, "Dad, how does it twist and fold over when it's got the tow hitch here and the accordion connector?" And I said, "Yeah, that's not how that works in the film." But yeah, no, it's good. I'm gonna paint it up green, and it'll be a good little custom to have, and it sort of scales well with the Matchbox M-Class when I get it. So that's a little project I've got coming.
Sounds like fun.
And I'll start working on over the next couple of months. But again, those pictures are up on the Facebook page now.
Hiya. Is this the Ludlow affair?
Sorry, this is private property.
No, we're on the list.
You have to turn around, get back in your car, and
This
go
is
back
Dr.
from there.
Harding. I'm Dr. Mel.
That's
We have Mr. Ludlow's test results.
Yeah, there's good news and bad news.
One little bit of news to get to before we get into today's minute, and it's been a pretty light news week. There's been a lot of TV spots and that coming up and being aired. I think at this stage, most of the secrets of the film have been revealed, except for one. There's a new behind-the-scenes featurette that came out. One of them was showing a lot of the animatronics and all that stuff being used on set, which was fantastic to see. It's good to see some of the animatronics behind the scenes, just using the Rex inside that container with Owen that we see in the trailer. And even, I think Claire jumps on its back at one stage and rides it, which is fun too. But one interesting thing that's come out of that trailer or featurette is a shot from inside Lockwood Manor with a painting, a portrait.
Yes.
I think it's a painting of John Hammond on the wall, along with a couple of other, other men as well.
I was going to say, I missed that, and I'm just like,
Oh.
whoa, really?
Well, that's the founding, the succession of InGen CEOs on the wall. But it's just interesting, and we've sort of jumped on, and we've discussed too in the past about how Lockwood might not be as evil, maniacal, mustache twirling as what a lot of people think he will be, and just sort of he might be if it's a financial thing where he was shut out of Jurassic Park or whatever happens there. But the fact that there's a portrait of John Hammond on the wall in his manor, I don't know what that's supposed to say. Does he idolise Hammond? Does he?
It's supposed to be that Lockwood is supposed to represent a character in the novel, I think, called Norman Atherton, who was a business associate of John Hammond.
Oh.
And then Hammond cut him out early out of the business, out of InGen, and kind of not replaced him with Wu as his kind of second confidant, but he just kind of took the company for himself and they had Wu basically his main confidant as his chief geneticist. Norman Atherton was, I think, the person who kind of got Hammond off the ground on a genetics level, but he wasn't. But he was like the kind of co-founder of InGen, but he wasn't like the chief geneticist, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Why would Lockwood have this on of John Hammond in his manor if he was disgruntled with him, or it's also doesn't really, we don't get much context of who the other two men are. One's a very early 19th century looking portrait, and the other one sort of looks just about the same as what John Hammond does, but just slightly larger. And I just seen Deadpool 2, so all I thought when I was seeing this was rich white man hanging on the walls from one of the jokes in that. But we see the older one in the middle here, so he was holding a skull of some description. So maybe it's pioneers in the paleontological history or something, or. I just found odd that he's got a photo of John Hammond here, and it looks like John, or they're suggesting in the article that on Outpost here that it's sort of taken around the Lost World era, where he's sort of a lot greyer and a lot older than what he was in Jurassic Park. And maybe a portrait he took before he died. So yeah, I just found it interesting. It's probably one of the big secrets we still haven't really. Yeah. Found out about.
There's also a couple interesting little tidbits they throw in here in this little behind-the-scenes featurette of B-roll and other little things. There's also, I think, is Lockwood talking to Claire in front of that model, and we get a really good shot of this supposed little island that supposedly Lockwood wants to move the animals to. And we don't know yet if it's Lockwood's behind the betrayal, or if it's the other guys that are behind it who want to sell the dinosaurs at auction. And we hear Lockwood say something to Claire like, we're moving them to a sanctuary that has no fences, and it's a real kind of John Hammond naturalist kind of speech that kind of similar to what John Hammond said to Ian Malcolm at the beginning of the movie.
Yep. And you could take that, well that's obviously, or you'd presume that's Sauna. But if that map is, or if that island he's got there set up in the middle of the room isn't Sauna, if it's another, I don't think they'd bring another island into it, but yeah, because I think we talked last week too about the Arcadia and how it seemed like they were taking all the animals in one go. It wasn't several boats ferrying animals back and forth. It was an all or nothing sort of deal. So, which makes you wonder sort of what if all the animals on the Arcadia end up back at the mainland, or if it's just some, if they helicopter a couple off when they turn and run, or what happens there. But we'll find out. We'll find out soon enough.
Well, we got about the United States has a month away to go. What do you guys in Australia have, Sam?
I'd have to check. I'd assume it's the same. I don't think we're lucky enough to get it 2 weeks.
Which is unfortunate, especially because avoiding spoilers is going to be very difficult from this point on.
Mhm. Yep. If you want to be spoiler free, it's probably best to get offline or mute. Yeah, mute or unfollow, mute or turn off notifications to all all the content you get Jurassic Park, all Jurassic World news from. But if that's all you want to talk about there, Dave, you want to get into 105?
Sure.
As we ended on minute 104 of The Lost World, Ian and Sarah had formulated the plan to lure the Tyrannosaur back to the boat using the baby. As we open on minute 105, Sarah gets down on her knees beside Ludlow and asks, "Where's the infant?" Ludlow replies, "It's in a secure facility. Why?" At the 12-second mark, Ian bends over and asks Ludlow sternly, "Where's the facility?" At the 18-second mark, we cut to Suburbia and the male Tyrannosaur lumbering down the footpath, knocking over trees as it goes, sniffing the air, searching for water. At the 30-second mark, it emerges between the two houses in the backyard and looks over a brick wall down to a large swimming pool. At the 41-second mark, we cut inside to a fish tank as the Tyrannosaur's footsteps send ripples through the water. The footsteps also wake Benjamin, and he gets up to see what's making the noise out the window. And as the minute ends, the Tyrannosaur's head emerges through the open window. As we end at minute 104 of The Lost World, Ian and Sarah had formulated the plan, luring the Rex back to the ship using the baby, much like they lured the Rex to the trailers back on the island. But we cut down to Ludlow here still moping, and Sarah kneels down beside him and asks, "Where's the infant?" And it was weird, because in that previous scene where Ludlow and Ian come across Ian and Sarah come across Ludlow, he's sort of sitting up high on a piece of the dock or something, a higher vantage point anyway. Whereas now all of a sudden Sarah's bending down to be at his level, like he's sitting down on the ground somewhere.
Stilskin indeed.
Yeah. Like first he was up on the side of the dock, now he's down on a crate, sitting down. But I just thought that interesting. But he turns to Sarah and looks at her and says it's in a secure facility. Why? And then Ian bends his massive frame down to get his head down to Ludlow's height, because Ludlow's not a big man either, so sitting down he'd be a lot smaller, probably below Ian's groin height maybe, but bends down and brings his face into frame and asks sternly, "Where's the facility?" Which, wouldn't they have seen it coming in if it's part of the Injun Waterfront complex? You think they would have drove past it when they were coming down to the warehouse or down to the waterfront earlier. But it's just one of those things, we don't know the exact point of where it is compared or in relation to the into the waterfront. But then we cut to Suburbia and we got our first look at the male Rex taking a stroll down the footpath.
He rather is huge. I mean, we're looking at this car in the foreground, and the T-Rex just looks massive. He's looking in. He's able to look right into like some of the second floor windows, you know.
Yep, and it's one thing I don't think this would work as well if the film was made today. More so because back then nowadays you'd have people out at 4 o'clock in the morning running around, going for jogs and somewhat being a lot more active and being
it was still
early in the
similar
morning.
to that then. He's not as much health nuts, but yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and he knocks a tree over here on the footpath as well, which is funny. Yeah. And it's also interesting here too, because it looks like it's just rained pretty heavily. Like there's water running down the gutters and the streets completely wet.
I was going to say it does very much, and I've had a friend on Jurassic Park Legacy who argued, well, they do that in a lot of movies where they just wet the streets and to make it look shiny and more photogenic, but I mean, like you said, there's clearly water running down those gutters, so there was a rainstorm overnight, you know?
And not only that, if you look, it's sort of, if it was supposed to be 3 a.m. when they were back and the Rex arrived, you could probably say this is probably a good 45 minutes to an hour later. So you're looking at about 4 o'clock. You sort of see in the background the sky, you got that pre-dawn light, but it looks like there's like storm clouds that are still sort of clearing.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that. You can see in the background, looks like the Hollywood, not the Hollywood Hills, but Southern California mountains in the far background, and overhead you can see the kind of like misty storm clouds just blowing around, overcast.
And they would have, for this shot, like they would have just gone out and set the camera up and took some tracking shots and that with someone running down the street. with the tennis ball on a stick.
Click the camera
So it could have just rained that morning.
What was that?
It could have just rained that while
Or
they were
they
doing
could
that.
have set up the hoses to make it look like it rained. But yeah, another thing is they probably flicked the camera a little bit, because if you notice, every time the Rex steps on the ground, the camera shakes a little bit.
Yeah, which is a good little touch. Just the impact, especially here. It's not the wet tropical mud. It's sort of hard. It's concrete. It's the road
Soft grass,
or even the footpath. So yeah, yep. But then it turns away from the road and heads in between two houses. And I love here it sort of bends its head around, just with its little arm, gives its lower jaw a bit of a scratch, and then as it points its head forward again, sort of the little arm just twitches like it's still scratching
a little bit too, and it's just as it passes the basketball net.
Oh yes, that's what it was. Yep.
And another thing, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I remember seeing it. I remember seeing a YouTube video or something, a meme or something, a while ago about this scene. I thought it was the fact it was trying to scratch its head and couldn't reach or something. But yeah, that's the the basketball net on the top of the garage that it goes past and does that little dribbling movement.
And you notice that before it, or just as it's turning, it kind of lifts his head up towards the sky, and you can almost imagine some little sniffing sounds as he steps over another tree.
Well, it almost makes there's almost that sound effect of it sniffing the air, like it's sniffing for the water. As you said before, it was drooling, so if it's walked all this way in search of water, it was already dehydrated when it got off the boat, so it's just it's funny that it's sort of gone this far into suburbia and to sniff out a swimming pool, but I'd imagine most of the inland canals or channels and that around San Diego will be salt water anyway, so it'd be looking for some fresh water, but I don't. This is either chlorinated or salt water as well. It'd have to be chlorinated if it's drinking from it, but it wouldn't taste that good.
It tastes like pool water, but it's drinkable. An animal of his size, it really wouldn't hurt him. But yeah, the thing is in San Diego and those locales around Southern California, it's not the fact that the canals have salt water. It's the fact that a lot of the times those drainage ditches don't have water at all.
Oh, okay, yep.
They just dry up, and if you remember seeing the big chase between the truck and the motorcycle in Terminator 2, that's all done through a water canal, and it's just bone dry.
Well, I suppose, yeah, and if you want to go to the air quotes LA River that you see in a lot of films and that it's just pretty much a trickle down the middle. I'm sure if there's a rain event, that'll flow a lot faster with all the runoff from the concrete jungle. But
again, that's a big if.
Yeah, well, it's all that stuff's made for drainage, not for redirecting streams or rivers or anything like that are naturally flowing. So, yeah. But we cut out the back to the rear of the house, and we can see the swimming pool, and it sort of looks from one house to the other and looks over at the swimming pool and walks straight through either a brick or a stone divider. It sort of makes that sound of bricks collapsing as it walks through the wall between the two properties.
Like a molded cinder block, I was thinking.
Yeah, so it sniffs the water, and also notice here too that it comes from behind the doghouse and sort of walks over and past it. Yeah, but then we cut inside, and the fish tank rippling, and boy sleeping. The script calls him Benjamin. I don't know if he's actually credited. Oh, he's got a speaking role, so he would be in the credits as Benjamin. But
you can tell that Ben's parents have money too, just because the custom shape of that swimming pool, that heart shape, is not usually standard. Usually pretty standard is either square, circle, or oval. So, and not only that, but they have looks like a hot tub built into the side of the heart-shaped swimming pool. So yeah, they definitely have money.
And even the fish tank here, and I was trying to think back to '97, and I didn't know anyone that had fish.
A friend of mine had
pets.
fish. I had a couple fish. Usually they're goldfish that died overnight.
Yeah, well, I've since had, when I had my son, we've tried fish a couple of times, and yeah, it's good for a couple of weeks, and all of a sudden, just without warning, floating.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, let's not do this anymore. We'll let someone else.
Yeah, but we had turtles for a good long couple years, and they were good years, and they were wild bred, so they wouldn't eat anything. They wouldn't eat the mealworms. They only ate live bait.
Yeah, makes it hard. But he hears the footsteps, and you can hear the T-Rex sort of growling outside, and he wakes up, and no, I've missed.
He sees the big animatronic head.
Yes, sorry. No, sorry. I thought it went to the bedroom.
He looked outside from behind Benjamin. You just see the giant head enter the entirety of his window, and that's almost like exactly how it's described in the script too. And because he sort of gets up and crawls to the edge of the bed and just looks out that window, and you see the snout and then the rest of the head, and it's just wow. And then we get a nice close-up shot of his face with his eyes wide, and he's just like, "Oh my God, what?" And it's just like, am I dreaming? Am I awake? Is it? I mean, his parents think it's a bad dream. We talk about that next minute.
Mm. Yeah, that's it, and it's sort of in the next minute he sort of says there's a dinosaur in the backyard, and it's in the script. It actually says as we look through the bedroom, you can see there's a heap of dinosaur toys throughout the room, so he knows what he's looking at, but we don't really see that in the film. In a post-Jurassic Park world where, yes, you know what the T-Rex looks like, you can identify this, and the fact that you're on the second story and it's looking through the window at you, you know what you're looking at. So,
well, as a kid, my bedroom window, I still live in the same bedroom, is looked out over a cornfield, and it was for years just an empty field after the farmer sold, and before the real estate agents really started selling plots. And in between our property line and the empty field was this line of Russian olive trees, and so it was just this line of gnarly, kind of twisted-looking trees that looked for something right out of Isla Sorna. I remember I used to play Roland Tembo, and I actually found a picture of me wearing the hat I used to pretend as Roland Tembo, and I'll post a picture. I'll post it up on the Facebook if people are interested.
Nice. All right. So, anything else on that before we get into the shooting script?
No.
All right. Basically, the shooting script happens a lot the same here. We had Sarah sort of saying that they've got about 5 minutes to get the Rex back to the boat because innocent people and itself are going to get killed. And then she sort of looks at Ludlow and grabs him by the collar and grabs him and says, "Where's the infant?" And then we cut straight to Benjamin's room here. We don't have the outside stuff at this point in the script. We see him sleeping. We can see the dinosaurs scattered all over the shelves of his room and on the floor. And we see the fish tank shimmering as outside. We can hear the thump, thump, thump as the Tyrannosaur's walking. He sort of calls out to his dad, but there's no answer, so he gets up and looks outside and can see the dog barking furiously outside at something, but he can't see what it's barking at. So he pulls the drapes down on one window and then goes to pull the drapes down on the second window, and that's when he sees the Tyrannosaur looking in at him with its big boxy head up at the second story height, and fills the entire window as it glides silently past the window. So and that's when he freezes and he's hand shaking in midair, in spite of himself trying to close the drapes, but is inquisitive and wants to look at it walking past. That's a little bit of the script that corresponds with this minute. So, Dave, anything else you want to get to before we get heavy for the day?
Not really. I think we did that pretty well.
Yeah, no. All right, no worries.
All right, guys. Let's get the hell out of here.
Contact details are on the website, thelostworldminute.com. You can email feedback to thelostworldminute@gmail.com, Facebook, The Lost World Minute, Twitter @The Lost World Minute, and Instagram, The Lost World Minute.
Easy to remember.
Yeah, very easy to remember. Right. David, thank you for joining me for this record.
You're welcome.
And we'll be back. I've been Brad.
I'm Dave.
And we'll talk to you all later. Goodbye.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
It is absolutely imperative that we work with the Costa Rican Department of Biological Preserves to establish a set of rules for the preservation and isolation of that island. These creatures require our absence to survive, not our help. And if we could only step aside and trust in nature, life will find a way.